Well, good evening and thank you for choosing EBN TV tonight, the 6th of September, the year 2023. Welcome to EBN Prime Edition, right here with me, Sammy Adika. Remember, today marks the end, or rather has marked the end of the Africa Climate Summit that has been held in Nairobi since Monday this week. Well, the African heads of states have come up, or rather developed a comprehensive declaration with regards to combating the effects of climate change. Well, we are now waiting to see if the rich nations will keep their promises. Well, I'm here to tell you of that and many more, but first taking a look on what has transpired today with regards to climate change summit. Well, in the presence of global leaders and high-level representatives, African heads of states and government have adopted a declaration that will pave way for 1.2 billion people on the continent. The comprehensive document being developed outlines a sweeping plan to combat climate change and accelerate sustainable development across Africa.
The Nairobi Declaration, expected to be a landmark accord, will comprise a set of measures and commitments aimed at tackling the urgent climate crisis that has severely impacted African nations. The first measure is on urgent global action and accountability. The declaration calls upon the global community to take immediate action to reduce emissions and fulfill past climate promises. It emphasizes the need to speed up efforts to meet individual countries' climate targets and demands the delivery of the long-awaited $100 billion annual climate finance commitment pledged at COP15 in Copenhagen 14 years ago. The declaration stresses the importance of allocating 0.7% of gross national income to official development assistance for health, education, hunger reduction, and gender equality. It also highlights the necessity of operationalizing the loss and damage facility at COP27 and calls for urgent action to cut Africa's annual $27 billion corporate tax revenue loss by 50% by 2030 and 75% by 2050. The second measure is on climate-positive green growth. African leaders commit pursuing a vision of climate-positive green growth that seeks to drive economic growth and create jobs while reducing emissions and greenhouse gas concentration. The third measure includes global standards and metrics. African leaders commit to playing a leading role in developing a global standards, metrics, and market mechanisms that value and pay for nature protection, biodiversity, and climate services. The fourth declaration urges the international community to increase investments in renewable energy in Africa, boosting Africa's renewable energy capacity from 56 gigawatts to 300 gigawatts by 2030. It advocates for the shift of energy-intensive primary processing of African raw material exports to the continent to reduce global emissions. The declaration proposes measures to increase Africa's capacity for generating carbon credits while ensuring socio-economic benefits and calls for innovative financing solutions. The fifth is investment in Africa, and this calls on the world to invest in Africa to foster inclusive and sustainable prosperity across the country. The sixth, climate change solution. The declaration affirms that the measures outlined will make Africa a key part of the global solution to climate change. It highlights the potential for significant global climate impact and economic growth. Reporting for EBN News, my name is Geoffrey Wanyoike.
And still on matters climate change, or rather climate summit, over 500 members of parliament from Africa have today held a meeting at parliament buildings to discuss legislative interventions to mitigate climate change. The meeting is part of the Africa Climate Summit that has been concluded today.
what we're trying to say to the international community is, if our African countries are beginning to lead in some areas, help us learn from them so that we can move quicker together. Finally, Mr. Speaker, Africa sits on endowments, and that's the key message your president has delivered for us, which we've imbibed. We don't want to take climate change as victims. We're looking at the new opportunity message.
Because we would like to support parliamentarians who have the goal of 100% renewables. And that's why I am working very close with Kende and other parliamentarians, because we would like to decide what can we do better, you know. So make practical work, make our homework, you know, and look for better situation. And when we have a look at the last years, we had some very important crises. We have not only the climate crisis, that's one, and we know about that, and the extreme weather and all the impacts, especially here in Africa. But we have other crises, and that was a COVID-19 pandemic and the Russian war.
That we strive to move ourselves from a continent of despair to a continent of hope. Because the future is with us. The future is right here in Africa. There are three lungs of the world in terms of climate: the Congo, the Amazon, and the Borneo in Indonesia. But the Congo is the biggest, the richest ecosystem, and if we protect it, its catalytic effect on many other parts of Africa.
And Equity Bank CEO James Mwangi has affirmed that the private sector of Africa will work with governments to tackle climate crisis, addressing delegates on the third day of the Africa Climate Summit at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. The Equity CEO has stated that they are ready to support Africa governments to address climate crisis by driving clean growth and climate finance.
We feel as the private sector, we have a role and a responsibility to work together with our governments to deliver on the commitments that the governments have made to the African people. The effort to address climate issues, we will start as a partner and deeply applaud the commitment of the African states to address climate action and to drive green growth and climate finance. We declare our support to the African Declaration and pledge our commitment in very specific areas, namely on climate finance. We commit to establish mechanisms that scale up green investments from the private sector. On green investment, we commit to adopt green and circular business models, designing products that are environmentally friendly and ensure integration of sustainability throughout the value chains. On decarbonization, we commit to actively seek opportunities for nature-based solutions in decarbonization plans and our commitment to net zero. Commit to create critical infrastructure such as refrigeration facilities, warehouses to reduce post-production waste and support market and trade opportunities. Your Excellencies, we pledge our commitment to work together with our government.
And media has been termed as an important tool in voicing effects of climate change across Africa. This came up during a roundtable media conversation organized by different organizations, including high voice and journalists from human rights.
We in Africa are saying that we are going to act on the issues that are affecting us from a climate perspective.
We should not take advantage of this resilience that is displayed by our people and allow the heavy emitters of carbon dioxide to get away with it without, by not paying for the adoption costs.
The Moro village live in the highland, and during this water increase of water from the lakes, they were locked in a highland. They were locked in island, and therefore they could not access the amenities. The school is the other side of the, outside the lake, the dispensary and the market.
Media organizations do not, most of the time, allocate funds to cover climate change, to cover environment. The only time a journalist is likely to get an opportunity to go and cover anything around climate change is when there is a disaster. When there is drought in Turkana or Marsabit, which is actually as a result of climate change.
Now taking a look on the WorldCoin probe. The parliamentary committee tasked with probing the licensing of WorldCoin to collect data from Kenyans has earlier on Wednesday interviewed a few Kenyans. Well, a section of those present during the probe have complained that they are experiencing eye problems since they had their eyes scanned as they registered for WorldCoin. Appearing before the committee, WorldCoin CEO Alex Blenia complained, or rather maintained, that its business in the country is genuine since their operations in Kenya was achieved through third-party agents and partners.
Let's say I'm in a chat room or I'm on Twitter, and I might as well interact with a very powerful neural network. That is one. And two, also digitally generated images are now very easy to fake. And so what this means is that the internet will be a much more complicated place. It will be much harder to trust. And we need to verify what it actually is to be a human. And that is what World ID is. World ID is a way for all of us to verify to each other that we are actually human beings and we are not neural networks. So that, and what that practically means is I might go to Twitter, I might scan a QR code and log myself in with World ID and just verify I'm an actual human being. Okay, and I already touched on this briefly. That's this art. So humanness in the age of AI is one of the core factors and one of the core motivations of WorldCoin. As AI becomes increasingly more powerful, we will need to verify ourselves online, and World ID is a privacy-preserving way to do so. World ID is, again, a way to verify yourself online. World App is a simple digital app that lets you interact with the WorldCoin protocol, so lets you use your World ID, lets you claim your WorldCoin tokens, and then last but not least, the WorldCoin token, which is, well, it's likely going to be the widest distributed crypto digital asset that gives you governance and ownership in the protocol itself. First checks that you're an actual alive human being, so you cannot fraud the orb. There's a lot of sensors in front that just detect you're not showing a display, you're not showing a printout, but you're actually there and you're an actual person. Once that step is done, it then takes a picture of the human eye and calculates a unique code. We will go deeper into this in a second, compares that against everyone else. Once that is the case, you receive your World ID.
Now crossing over to Narok County. Narok County Governor Patrick Ole Ntutu has warned Azimio leader Raila Odinga against involving himself with the county politics, noting that his county residents made their choice during the 2022 general elections, which have to be respected. Condemning Odinga's sentiments, Governor Ntutu has reiterated that Odinga is undermining the devolved unit leadership. His backlash comes days after Odinga toured the county.
Na tumekubali kwa roho moja na viongozi wetu ya kwamba raisi wetu William Ruto aje anzishe hizi mipango za maendeleo. Leo tumeanzisha industrial park, tutaanzisha ya maziwa, tutaanzisha hizi zingine zote. Lakini tunataka tu kuambia mzee Raila aachane na Narok, kwa sababu watu ya Narok wamekubali ya kwamba watafanya kazi na William Samoei Ruto. Hii mambo yako ya kuja kuambia watu chenzi ni mbaya sana kwa mzee kama wewe ya rika ya baba yangu kuja kutukana watoto. Ni mbaya katika kimila yetu ya Wamasai. Lakini ile kitu nataka kukuhakikishia, jamii yote ya Wamasai hawako sasa na wewe. William ametupea Amboseli National Park, na hii maneno kwa sababu jana ulikuja, hakuna kitu ulilete. William anakuja hii mwezi inakuja na anakuja kuzindua industry. Sasa wewe ukikuja tu kupiga kelele na unaenda bure, hata sadaka huwezi tolea watoto ya Masai. Sasa tumechanuka. Hii maneno yako kila mtu amejua ya kwamba ni ya uongo, na hatungependa kuona tena wewe mwenyewe ukijaribu kuja kudanganya watu ya Narok. Mimi leo ndio governor, na kama unasema ati imeibiwa kura yako na Kenda, tangu 1997 hii kura yako inaibiwa tu.
Mumesema about Narok North, hata mwenye amefurahi ni mimi ambaye ni mbunge wenu, kwa sababu sasa nikisalimia rais na mwambia about turn. Si tumesema about turn? Hiyo mambo ingine yote ni kelele tu.
Tunaambiwa watu wameingia Mau. I want to confirm Mau Forest.
While moving away from politics, residents of Jacaranda Estate in Embakasi East, Donholm, have protested, complaining of lack of water for more than 3 months now. The residents are now pointing accusing fingers at cartels in order to get ready market to sell water in Jacaranda Estate, which has more than 400 households. The management of the estate claim to have received threats from a section of Nairobi County government officials and some cartels following their efforts to have water connections restored.
My name is Catherine Wanjiro Kenywa. Majina yangu ni Catherine Wanjiro Kenywa. Nimeishi Jacaranda for over 22 years kutoka hizi nyumba zijengwe. Mimi ni mmoja wa wakazi hapa. I'm starting from the brief. I'm a committee member for the last 4 years. Our members na wengine wale wako kazi leo, it's a working day, walinichagua. Sasa tulianza vita ya maji Jacaranda Estate 4 years ago. 4 years ago, our wakaji walikuwa nakaa to an extent 1 year without a drop of water. Tukaanza vita hapo. Vita ya kwanza ilikuwa Jacaranda Estate hatuna kura. Vita ya pili ilikuwa Jacaranda Estate sisi ni maringo na sisi ni matajiri juu wanaangalia manyumba. So with that we started the battle. I personally nimesuffer even threats to my doorstep. Nyumba yangu iko pale. Nilifuatwa vile tulianza. Zile frustration nilikuwa napokea na wenzangu hapa residents zika subside because of the office of the president sitting back then wame intervene. Ku intervene the engineer back then of Nairobi Water wakakuja wakatuwekea, tukienda ile kona upige pale kona, tukaekewa line ya pili ya maji. Hiyo kwa sababu sasa initially, let me give you the excuses they were giving us. Jacaranda imejengwa juu ya mlima. Number 2, water Nairobi haina maji, desert. The other thing tunaambiwa water pressure. Every time it is a Jacaranda day, day siku yetu ya maji, kunatokea either pipe imebust, water pressure, maji imepungua. Jacaranda siku yake kupata maji ndio Kenya haina mvua ijanyesha.
Hotels ambayo wanaingilia kati kwa sababu wanatukatia maji ndio watuuzie maji kwa tankers. Kwa sababu tankers zao zina flow hapa Jacaranda from morning to evening. They are selling as water, yet we are paying for the services to the Kanjo ya Nairobi. Kwa hivyo
kama wewe binafsi unatumia pesa ngapi kununua maji kwa
hapa kwetu kibui moja ya maji ni shilingi 40. Mimi natumia maji kibui kama 18 in a day kwa sababu niko na familia. Ukipiga hiyo by 40, 18 by 40, that's a lot of money I spend in a day. By 30 days, by 3 months, that's a lot of money. Tunataka Sakaja ambaye tulichagua kama gavana wa Nairobi. Alituahidi tutapata maji, alituahidi among other things. Tunataka Sakaja awajibike kama gavana, atupe maji, maana maji ni uhai.
Well, it's quite interesting. We are now waiting to see if Governor Johnson Sakaja, together with Embakasi East Member of Parliament Babu Owino, will swing to action and ensure that water is restored at Jacaranda Estate right there in Embakasi East. And now moving to Mombasa County, a section of leaders in Mombasa County have called on the county government to put in place necessary measures to reduce effects of El Nino rains expected in October. The leaders have maintained that Mombasa has a poor drainage system and that the heavy rains may destroy property worth millions. Residents from densely populated areas in the coastal county have been urged to exercise caution during the rains to avoid loss of lives. As the county government maintains, or rather the national government maintains, that a special committee has been set to combat effects of El Nino rains expected in October.
Mvua ya masaa mawili Mombasa hujaza mafuriko katika nyumba zetu. Je, serikali ya gatuzi ya Mombasa imejipanga vipi na storm waters, zile njia za kupitisha maji ya mvua na maji ya bahari, ili tunapokabiliwa na El Nino kama ile ambayo imetangazwa mapema tuweze kuikabili na tusipate madhara, bali tuweze kuconserve yale maji.
Kwa hivyo El Nino si kitu cha kuchezea. Tusichukulie tu ni mzaa ati El Nino, lakini El Nino inaweza kuleta madhara makubwa sana. Na tunajua sisi shida ya Mombasa, kama mvua ya masaa mawili, Mombasa, the whole of Mombasa, it gets flooded. Especially town center. Unapata ukipita Moi Avenue, ukipita pale Majengo, ukipita Kilifi, ni barabara huwa hazipitiki. Na ni mvua tu ya masaa mawili. Sasa jiulize leo tupate El Nino ambayo itapiga masaa 12. My friend, we are looking at a disaster ahead of us if we are not prepared enough.
Tutashirikiana pamoja county government na national government, na tuko na ile disaster committee vile nilisema, kuangalia mambo ya flooding, kuangalia mambo pengine ya moto ama nini ambayo inaweza kujitokeza.
And in Nairobi, a Nairobi court has convicted two social workers, Selina Adundo and Fred Leparan, for trafficking 3 infants 3 years ago at Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital. The court, in its decision, said that prosecution has established a case against the two. It was the court finding that the two acted in disregard of the social workers' ethics.
Following is deduced from the events of the third meeting. Some money is placed on the table where the first accused person, the whistleblower, and Ross are seen. The discussions of baby nutrition and how the baby should be handled comes out. The money is placed on the table, and the first accused draws the money towards himself. And therefore Ross is grateful that the deal has gone through, and they leave, and investigation comes out. From the analysis of the video clip and evidence and as provided, I am of the view that first accused person, knowing very well that Ross and the whistleblower or the driver of the said motor vehicle were not employees or representatives of Imani Children's Home, he fraudulently and without consideration of his ethics, he confers children or transfers children to people who are not representatives of the children's home, and therefore the whole process was by means of fraud, because accused person knew very well that in as much as these children are indicated that they are aided to Imani Children's Home, they were not aided there. And the court poses and asks a question. If Ross was to get one child, why would the first accused person, in his mischievous behavior, not let the 2 other children go as per the discharge?
46 gambling machines have been destroyed, with police in Machakos County seizing 62 cartons of illicit brew in the county following a planned crackdown. Machakos County Commissioner Patrick Lobolia has noted that the owners of the gambling machines have been arrested. The police now want the county residents to work close with the law enforcers and help reduce illicit brew business in the county.
So we had a raid yesterday, and the team managed to go out and they got some counterfeit alcohol yesterday, 46 cartons. I can name them. There's Power Vodka, Smart Vodka, Magic Vodka, and also gambling machines zenye ziko hapa. We are going today, tutazichoma, and we want to send a stern warning through the office of the county commissioner. Anybody involved whether in selling or drinking the counterfeit alcohol.
It is our duty to tell the society the effects of this, the machines, the drugs, and then all this illicit business going around. And then the public now, please, you tell us where this illicit business is going on, because we've told you the effects. After we know, don't say that the police know. What we appeal is that come and tell us. Don't assume. After that, we are going to finish this business of illicit brews, drugs, and all this. That's what we are appealing to the public. Tell us.
And the East Africa Community Heads of State, led by Kenya's President William Ruto, Tanzania's Sammy Suluhu, Rwanda's Paul Kagame, Salva Kiir of South Sudan, and Burundi's Evariste Ndayishimiye have agreed to extend the mandate of East Africa Community Regional Force to stay in DRC for 3 more months up to December 3rd. The regional force is made up of Kenyan, Ugandan, Burundian, and South Sudanese soldiers who were deployed in November 2022 to curb the M23 rebels who have threatened peace in DRC Congo.
Heads of state agreed to extend duration of the mandate of the East African Community Regional Force and the status of forces agreement for a further period of 3 months, as from 9th September 2023 to 8th December 2023, pending an evaluation report from the Council of Ministers.
Well, Harambee Stars have arrived in Doha, Qatar for a friendly match with their host, Qatar. The team left the country earlier today to hold a full team exercise and game in preparation for the match tomorrow. Stars will return in the country to prepare for another match against South Sudan come next week.
The most important things is just to get minutes, to gel with the team, and like I said before, just show everyone what I can do.
Tumeprepare poa na tuna hope for the best, tukiprepare hizi friendly mbili, tukiprepare kucheza World Cup qualifiers, because the nation is expecting a lot from us, and so far tumekuwa na good friendly matches. Ukiona Iran, now we are going to play Qatar.
The problem we had is that most of the foreign-based players came today, so still also Johnson, Omova and Ayub didn't train with us, so we didn't make any training with a full squad. So we will have only tomorrow in Qatar one training because the weather conditions are very good.
Well, that right there marks the end of EBN Prime Edition tonight. Many thanks for tuning in once again. My name is Sammy Adika. Remember to join Cynthia Nanjala tomorrow very early in the morning by 7 a.m. for EBN Social Thursday. Right here, she will be here to inform you on many more with regards to Social Thursday. Do have a lovely night.